Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour, your source for all hard rock, heavy metal, new metal, alternative, punk, horror punk, hardcore, rock, and all local bands, with your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
G'day, this is Harry from Airbourne. Keep on rocking and keep on listening to BODS Mayhem Hour. Cheers.
The views and opinions of the guests do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather, and as always, I'm bringing you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today, it's an honor and a privilege, huge privilege to welcome Harry. He is the guitarist of Airborne. Airborne is back with their 5th studio album entitled Boneshaker via Spinefarm Records. Also, they have singles Boneshaker and Backseat Boogie. And Boneshaker album is out now, plus these 2 singles are out now. Please, if you haven't listened to Airborne, check them out. You will dig them. So, Harry, how's it going, man?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. I'm sitting backstage in Leipzig, Germany, as we speak right now. We've just come off stage about half an hour ago. So, yeah, right in the middle of a tour right now, and obviously the record has just come out, and we're getting some of those new songs in the set, so all's good. How's
it been working with Spinefarm Records so far for you guys?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, I've only joined the band about 2.5 years ago, so this is actually my first record with the band from the start of the cycle. So, yeah, sort of unique perspective for me coming into the fold sort of halfway through the previous album cycle and jumping straight on the road. And then obviously, you know, starting this record from scratch and then having the privilege of going over to the States and working in RCA studio with Dave Cobb, and now finally getting that out into the world and, you know, doing that kind of, you know, we're already in the middle of a tour over here in Europe by the release date. So, you know, we just gradually added those songs into it, and it's all going good. We're really happy with the record. It's it feels like we achieved something that we set out to do from a long time ago, even going back as far as 18 months or 2 years ago when we first started even thinking about and talking about the record. This was definitely the type of thing that we wanted to make in terms of the raw kind of live sounding record, and, you know, we got there, so it's all good.
What do you think that you have brought to this band or added to the band that may have been missing possibly?
I'm not sure. I mean, I guess, you know, the other guys in the band may very well have a brighter perspective on exactly what I've brought. I mean, all I wanted to bring was like energy and excitement to the band. We are, you know, we're not exactly an old bunch of guys, but the band has been around for, you know, it's now 10 years since the first record, and, you know, the band has been on the road for many, many years, and, you know, we're in a position where I had been friends with the other guys in the band for basically that entire time as well. So, you know, that was the main thing that I wanted to contribute in terms of coming into the band at this point, halfway through an album cycle for the previous record and then going into a new one. It was just, you know, excitement and energy. You know, I am absolutely loving being here, loving being on the road, and obviously loving situations like being able to, you know, have the opportunity to go over to the other side of the world and record in a mega famous studio with arguably, you know, the number one producer in the world at the moment.
Boneshaker is Airborne's 5th studio album. How does it feel to be able to put out a full-length album today, especially since so much has changed in the music world for bands? And you know that just as well as I do. A lot of things have changed now. So how does it feel to be able to put something out these days?
It's amazing. I mean, there's obviously a lot of opportunities for bands and artists to do things in a lot of, I guess, alternative ways than there may have been 20 years ago in terms of how you can record or how you can release. And we're lucky to be, you know, part of, I guess, a lucky few who are still able to, you know, work within the kind of bigger machine of the music industry and, you know, have a budget that's big enough to be able to record with Dave Cobb in Nashville and then release it and, print or press up, all of the options that we can possibly conceive in terms of record colours and variants and all those sorts of things. So, we know we're lucky, but we obviously care about it a hell of a lot and, put all the effort that we possibly can into making sure that it's as special a package for our fans as it is for us in terms of putting out a new record.
What's impressed or excited you the most about making this new album, if anything? Was there anything you wanted to add differently to this album that didn't get added to the previous album, Breaking Out of Hell, possibly, that you wanted to do for Boneshaker?
I think the main thing was just the intent from day one of stripping it right back to capturing a really live and really raw sound. And, Dave Cobb is really the number one guy in the world for that type of thing at the moment. I mean, he's obviously very well known in the country world, and that's where he's achieved platinum albums and Grammys and all that sort of stuff. But, people like Chris Stapleton that he's, famous for working with. Chris Stapleton has an amazing voice. He's an amazing guitarist. Mm-hmm. And in the studio, he records with just a bunch of great musicians, and they do it all live. And on those records, you can hear a guitar through a guitar amp and, a great voice through a great mic and not much else in between or not much else after the fact in terms of post-production or anything like that. So, they were all elements that we really appreciated about what Dave had done in the past. And then after speaking to him, he's an absolute rock and roller at heart. And, we hit it off immediately and really knew that he was the guy that we could achieve the type of thing that we wanted to if we got into the studio with him. And even that comes down to just having very similar reference points in terms of the type of records we all loved as kids and all wanted to play when we first picked up the guitar and all of that sort of stuff. He had a very similar, upbringing in terms of his teenage years and when he first started getting into music and started learning the guitar and things like that. There was a lot of crossover in terms of how we have all come to, where we sit today.
I saw the press release on this, and I was thinking, Chris Stapleton, how funny is this? Because I'm from Kentucky, and Chris Stapleton is like the next county over from me where he grew up at. I'm like, that's crazy. The same producer worked with Chris Stapleton. Now he's working with Airbourne. How fucking cool is that?
It's a small world, isn't it? It's the internet makes the world even smaller. But yeah, it's amazing how many times things like that occur.
Yeah. Writing these songs, Harry, did it push you out of your comfort zone that you guys are not used to, maybe, or want to spice it up a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, once we had essentially booked studio time, had been speaking to Dave about the record, and we're a few months out from flying over to Nashville, he really encouraged us to not go down the path of polishing up 10, 20, 30 demos and spending too much time, working songs into the ground in a lot of ways. I mean, that's kind of an infamous term in the recording world, demoitis. Just that, the sentiment of basically working on a song so much to the point that you hate the song.
Yeah.
It's something that he really encouraged us to, steer clear of, and he really wanted us just to come into the studio with nothing more than as many riffs as we wanted, as many song titles as we wanted, as many, chorus ideas, lyric ideas, but to not finish anything and just, rely on the inspiration of the day in the studio to kind of lead the way in terms of which particular idea we worked on and then which direction that took from the point of, picking it up in the morning with your morning coffee and a guitar on your lap sort of thing. So that was definitely different. And I mean, even in the first week or two in the studio, Dave's methods and the way that he works and the way that he was so keen to just sort of push us into the deep end. And, we were in the deep end and we just had to swim like hell and make sure we didn't drown. So we were in there working on songs that, an hour ago were nothing more than just a voice memo on an iPhone, and there might have just been one guitar riff or something like that. And then an hour and a half later, we've tracked the version of the song instrumentally that has ended up on the record. And that was something that Dave was really big on, just capturing the moment where, as a musician, you are most excited about the song, and that translates into just an intangible energy that can't be captured in any other way when you're recording the idea at that moment when you're most excited about it. So especially for the first week or two in the studio, we had moments where we were in there as a band, guitar amp set up next to the drum kit, and the four of us are in there facing each other, and, it was just for us kind of set up like the rehearsal room, and in our heads we were just figuring out a new idea and putting the pieces of the puzzle together and lining up part A with part B, and then, oh, cool, we'll go to part C now, and then to A, B, and so on. And then Dave would burst back through into the live room, with his fists in the air. That we've got it. That's the take. We've got it. That was a bit of culture shock, definitely at the start, where we're sitting there going, we're just figuring out the idea. What are you talking about? I made a mistake in the second verse, and there was a different drum fill than we planned on in the going into the bridge or something like that. But when we went back into the control room and listened back to what he was hearing, we were hearing the energy that is in all of our favourite records in terms of that unhinged, no click track, sort of playing a song on the edge of almost falling apart and sort of capturing that moment rather than, capturing the 100th drum take and the, 74th guitar take and the, 122nd bass take and then just patching it all together. It was totally different, and it was really liberating in that sense that we were just able to be, the same band that we are able to be when we don't have a producer or a recording studio. When we're just, back home in Melbourne, in our rehearsal space, we're just four mates playing music and, having fun doing it. And that was, Dave created an environment where, in a very famous studio, we still felt like that, which was really cool.
Working with Dave Cobb on this, did he get something out of you guys that maybe another producer possibly may not have gotten, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he really approaches, projects with like an unhinged level of excitement and energy as well. I mean, he's very much like us. We are very lucky in that, as I mentioned, we're sitting in the, in Germany as we speak, and we're lucky enough we've just come off stage and played to over 3,000 people tonight who've paid their hard-earned cash to come and see the band live and all that sort of stuff. And we have moments where we sort of look at each other and we're like, oh, man, like, how did we even get here? We're like kids in a candy store, just, the luckiest dudes on the face of the earth. And he approaches producing from a very similar point of view. He loves the studio that he's in, and he loves the history of the place, and he really cares about it. And, he takes the time to continue researching the history and who was in that room and when and what mics they used and what gear they used and everything. And he's very similar in the way that he comes in with a, big, massive smile on his face every single day that, it's almost the same sort of thing as us, that, we kind of just fell into the situation we're in right now. That's not to disregard all the hard work that we've done as a band or he's done as a producer, but it's a good way to approach your work. It's never work if you're having the time of your life every single day. So that was the thing. He approaches producing the same way that we approach our live show and just simply being a band. And more than anything, he just encouraged us to be us and leave capturing an album's worth of songs up to him. And that was really inspiring in itself, that we got to just treat the way that we were recording the same way that we would pull out an iPhone and record a quick voice memo in a sound check or in the rehearsal room.
How long did it take to write and complete the new album?
I think a bit under 5 weeks. So, for obviously prior to me joining the band, I know for a fact that this is well and truly the shortest amount of time that the band has spent in the studio. And, that's even with the previous process of having, potentially written and demoed 30, 40 songs. go through the process of present those to the label and then present those to a producer and then pick the best songs, and even from that point go into a studio. And, I think previously the other guys in the band had really gotten used to spending nearly 3 months in a studio recording an album and fine-tuning everything. And, Joel had joked at points that, previously they had spent 2 weeks working on one guitar tone and just trying every combination of amps, guitars, speakers, microphones, everything, just over and over and over and over again. But, on this record, we had our guitar tones within the first hour or two of just plugging into the first amp. And again, that's total credit to Dave. He was, he encouraged us to just simply plug our favourite guitars into our favourite amps and leave capturing the way that they sound up to him, which was really cool.
Any tracks standing out more to you than any right now on the new album? I know it must change every time you listen to it, and I know you're close to them, but do you have any that stand out for you possibly, Harry?
I love Burn Out the Nitro. It's, as a guitarist, it's a super fun riff to play. Initially, that riff kind of stemmed from the idea of sort of jokingly sitting there with a couple of guitars, sort of saying in jest that we're sitting in the middle of Nashville, maybe we should write a country song. And in a weird way, if you slowed down that guitar riff and maybe played it with a Fender Telecaster through a tiny combo amp or something like that, you'd really hear that country thing coming through. But obviously, we turned it up to 120 dB through a massive Marshall amp and played it 3 times quicker than it was originally written, and it became the song that it did. But yeah, as a guitarist, it's just really fun to play. And that was one song that, as we speak now, the record came out a week ago. We introduced that song into the live set about a month ago now, just because it was so fun to play, and we kind of figured that if we have so much fun with the song, even an audience who are hearing it for the first time are still going to really dig it, get into it. And now that we've had it in the live set for probably 20 or 25 shows, or however many shows that it's been, it's sort of gone another step and really taking on a life of its own, which is really cool. So, yeah, for me, that's the song that I'm, in the studio, I loved it because the riff was really cool. And, even now speaking 6 months later, at the point that the record is now released, that's still the one that I'm loving.
Was it hard to choose between the current set of songs? Which one would be the first single or video you wanted to release or push first for the album, or did you have outside help to decide, or was it hands down Boneshaker when you guys were laying the tracks down for it?
Yeah, it was one of those things. I mean, Boneshaker was almost like a sleeper song in the collection. It was one that I think it was literally the first song that we tracked with Dave. And musically, you're hearing, I think, the first or the second take, or it might have been one of those situations where most of it is the first take, but the guitar solo with take 2 was better. Then it was literally old school, like cut the tape and patch it together and, have take 1 with a little bit of take 2 wedged into it. But, that was like the first thing we did. And then it just really started kind of shining through once we got to the mixing stage. And at that point, it, sort of made its way to the forefront of the album sequencing that, we're sitting there going, oh, then maybe this should be track 1 and open the record. It'd be something a bit different for an Airborne album, to start with something that's not the fastest song on the record. Start with something that's a bit more of like a mid-tempo stomper of a song. And then from there, that naturally became the title track. And then from there, it just made sense for it to be the kind of lead song. And it was one of those situations that, especially because we had introduced that song into the live set before it was released, and then for the video clip, we were able to capture the really great footage of playing that song in front of 80,000 people at Wacken Festival in Germany. All of those factors just sort of snowballed into making it, the just obvious choice to lead the record and be the first thing that people hear from the album.
what do you hope everyone takes away, or a message you hope they hear while listening to any of Airbourne's music in general? What do you hope they get from it?
I mean, we hope that it compels people to come to the live show, because that's what we're all about as a band, and we feel as though the songs, regardless of which album they're from, but in particular the new record, they all take on a new life of their own at the live concert, and whether that's an extended bridge so that Joel can be in the middle of a crowd, smashing a beer can open on his head and spraying it all over the crowd, or whether it's played a little bit faster, or kind of cool intro or whatever it may be. All the songs definitely take on a new life of their own at the live show. So yeah, I think that's the main thing. That it's records in a lot of ways are very much a medium to draw people to live shows, and we created a very live, all-sounding record that, in a lot of ways is the live version of the band, just laying down the songs. What you hear is what the band did, rather than there being 100 overdubs and added guitar parts and percussion and little bits and pieces. So, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, we're a live band. That's what we do best, and we love being on tour. The Boneshaker World Tour is, we're seeing dates scheduled right into 2021. So it's going to be a long-term world tour. That's how we'll be spending our life for the next couple of years.
Who did the artwork for this album?
It was actually a collaboration between an artist, Matt Harri, who is actually, he works a lot for Spinefarm Records, and then another artist, Shinn, who works for our merch company. And it ended up just being that it was ultimately, we had the clear vision that we wanted to have something that was really, really simple, that could be stenciled onto a road case, that could be tattooed, that would look great on a T-shirt, and that would work, great on a big backdrop looking, rearing over the stage at a festival. So I think Matt had a really great layout that, is essentially what you see when you see the album artwork. And then Sean, who works for our merch company, funnily enough, designed that skull initially just for a coffee mug. And our merch company, when we were going through the process of working on the artwork for the record, sent us, 15-page PDF file with all the merch proofs for us to approve to, go through the next touring cycle. And there was 30 or 40 T-shirt designs, and there was stickers and everything under the sun. And then there was a couple of mug ideas. And this skull, weirdly enough, was on one of the mugs. And it was just one of those things. As soon as we saw it, it was a case of, worlds aligned, and we felt as though that skull, along with the layout and the, I guess, almost like the template road sign that Matt had designed, and blending those two elements together would be perfect. And, that's exactly what you now see, which is, it sort of came about innocently and in sort of obscure circumstances, but it worked out really cool. And we love how it looks. We're already seeing a lot of bands with that image tattooed on them, which is amazing. And, we're out on the road at the moment with the big backdrop, and it looks amazing hanging over the stage. So we're stoked with how that turned out.
But when you see fans with tattoos of Airborne, I mean, you especially just coming into the band, I'm sure you was a fan of the band previously, but what's that mean to you? What goes through your head when you see, especially like generations of folks coming out to check out Airborne's music and passing it on down, man?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the generational thing is a big element, which is really amazing. I mean, the band kind of has like a generation of fans who were introduced to Airborne, potentially through a band like Motorhead, who before I joined the band, Airborne spent a lot of tours on the road with a band like Motorhead. So there's like that crew of people, and then they've now got 18-year-old sons and daughters who they're bringing to the concerts. And, when we see the tattoos, I guess the first thought is, we're sitting there going, oh, you're crazy. You've gone and done that. You've committed to this for the rest of your life. But, I guess it's super humbling at the same time. We know that these people are not doing that because, they're, I guess, uncertain that they're going to, feel strongly about the band or follow the band for the rest of their life or anything like that. Ultimately the sentiment of someone who's committed enough to have the band's name or logo or a piece of artwork tattooed on them for the rest of their life is, they're very similar people to us in a lot of ways, but it's a life commitment. You're here until the day you die. Mm-hmm. And it ultimately makes them, just part of the family for the rest of our days. So it's super humbling and super cool. And we're seeing a hell of a lot more of those people as we sort of go around, which is really, really cool.
In your own opinion, what does Airborne bring to the table for music that's not out there as of right now, if anything? I know no one's reinventing the wheel, but what do you guys keep adding to that wheel?
I mean, I think ultimately it's a shot in the arm for rock and roll, and I guess we feel that there's a distinction between what would be called rock music, generally speaking, versus, we'll always say that, no, we're a rock and roll band. And that's obviously coming from an awareness of stemming from the originals of, Chuck Berry and Little Richard, and going through AC/DC and the Stones and bands like Motorhead and onwards. So, I think we bring obviously a total appreciation of what came before us and a total commitment to driving it forward and continuing a great tradition that we fell in love with as kids, and we certainly hope, that many more kids for a lot more years to come fall in love with not only our band, but with rock and roll as a musical statement, and as in, for those who didn't it becomes a way of existence ultimately.
What can fans expect at a show from Airborne who have not got to see you guys live as of yet? What are they going to get when they come to see you?
Free beer is a good bet, to be honest. I mean, Joel definitely makes a habit of throwing out beers and sharing it all around. And, it's an onslaught from minute 1 to minute 90 or whenever the band comes off the stage. We'd leave it all out on the stage. It's loud as hell, it's fast as hell. And, it's music designed to be inclusive in the sense of, we want people to come to the shows and sing along just as loud as we are and rock along just as hard as we are.
What made you want to become a musician, Harry? What was it sparked for you, if you can recall? What was it that said, I want to do this?
I mean, specifically, weirdly enough, I got a gift under the Christmas tree when I was probably 11 or 12 years old from an auntie, which was a Queen greatest hits collection, but it was all their sort of heavier guitar riff rock and roll songs. It was called Queen Rocks. And that was really the first thing that I fell in love with. That was the first CD that I had that was mine. And I had, as it was the start of my collection, that was, the CD that just lived in my portable CD player until I collected more. And, some of those songs on that record were, they're more rock and stuff. There was like Stone Cold Crazy and Habit of Fall and, the songs with the big guitar moments and the big guitar riffs. And that was kind of the spark that, I think firstly it got me interested in music more so than the guitar. And then in getting, more and more obsessed with music, I started pursuing other bands and other artists and, saving up my lawn mowing money for more CDs, and ended up with Jimi Hendrix Greatest Hits, AC/DC Back in Black. And, it really was, I guess, a combination of those 3 records in particular, which kind of just lit the fire, made me really interested in music, and then really interested in the noises that they were making and how they were doing it. And that naturally led to, really becoming interested and obsessive about the guitar. And then I think it was my 13th birthday that I got my first guitar, and, they were still the albums that I was obsessing over at that point. And, in a weird way, sort of 18 years later, it's still really exactly the same. I'm still just as obsessed with music. I'm still just as obsessed with the guitar. And, we play for hours a day on tour anyway, across sound checks and then at the shows. And, we're all the type of people who'll still sit backstage in the dressing room with a guitar in our lap, strumming away for an extra few hours a day just because we love it so much.
Since you've joined the band, man, what's been one of your favorite moments possibly, or favorite show, or just something that's made you think, I cannot believe I'm part of this and we're actually doing this right now? Have you had that moment yet?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I guess, in a really weird way, that moment keeps reinventing itself, which is a really cool situation to be in. We've just come off stage tonight. Tonight was a killer show. It was amazing. The energy in the room was incredible. And even tonight, that was one of those moments of just, you walk off stage with a massive smile on your face, and the four of us all look at each other with the same smile. You don't have to say anything, but it's just that kind of knowing that, man, that was cool. And, even going back further to when I joined the band, I think it was my third show in the band was at a festival, again in Germany, called Rock and Ring Festival, which is a massive 80 or 90,000 people festival. And that was my third show in the band. So, that's an amazing memory, just sort of looking back to something that it feels like a decade ago, but ultimately it's actually not that long ago that I was sort of getting my first shows under my wings with the band. And that was obviously an amazing experience, sort of coming from really slogging it out in much smaller bands, just playing clubs and bars for many, many, many years, and then just sort of having the slingshot moment of just being placed in the middle of Germany on a festival stage in front of a crowd that goes as far as the eye can see. So, that's an amazing memory, just looking back to obviously how early in my time with the band that we were sort of catapulted into that moment.
Folks, you want to get out and pick up Airbourne's 5th studio album entitled Boneshaker via Spinefarm Records. You will not be disappointed. Give this band a chance. Pick up their old stuff too. Great, great, great band. Harry, how can folks stay in touch with you guys, buy this new album, merchandise, tour dates, all that good stuff? How can they do that, good sir?
The easiest way, just the wonders of Google. Jump on Google and search for Airborne, Airbourne, URNE, that is. I nearly messed it up myself. But, jump on there. The website, there's all the tour dates and obviously Instagram and Facebook and all that sort of stuff. With social media, we're trying to be more interactive with all those mediums. And, even tonight, we went live from the show on Instagram. So, all those little things are really cool. And, keep an eye on tour dates, because we are certainly looking at being over your side of the world in 2020.
Good. I hope so. I'd like to see you guys live for once. Good. Before I let you go, Harry, would you care to do a promo for the show?
Of course, yes. G'day, this is Harry from Airborne. Keep on rocking and keep on listening to BODS Mayhem Hour. Cheers.
Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and BODS Mayhem Radio Network. Get out and check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link and also our YouTube link. Please subscribe to our YouTube link, because anything and everything we do goes up on the YouTube link and, of course, the podcast link. Also, check out Airborne. You will not be disappointed. Grab their 5th studio album entitled Boneshaker, out now via Spinefarm Records. Love this band. So, Harry, thank you all so much for all your music, and I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck, and hurry up and get your asses over here.
Appreciate it, mate. We certainly look forward to it, and we'll definitely see you in person soon.
Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.